podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you could please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Rajee.
All right. So a lot is going on, and we can't talk about all of it right now.
Who you telling?
This is the last time we recorded. However, we'll do what we can. So I wanted to start with LeBron James. God, is he a junior? Is he called? Did they call him LeBron
Yes.
James?
Well, he is LeBron James Jr., but he changed his name to Bronni James.
Bronni James. All right. Interesting. So Bronni James was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers with the 55th pick in the NBA draft, which is a second round pick. And a weird firestorm of sorts with a mixed bag of, operational malfeasance of the Lakers to like a contingent that's like, yo, that's amazing that his father, could get him drafted by a team. Also to this is terrible that his father could be drafted by a team. Or like that LeBron weight in the organization having a handle in this. And just a myriad of like interesting things as it relates to me to not just nepotism as a concept, because I mean there's nepotism in a lot of other places and we just accept it as a part of the the game. But the sort of the challenge that I guess the spoken part is it don't seem like he really ready to be on no NBA team. Also, it's a second round pick, and if anyone here doesn't know, second round picks, like they might as well pick me with a second round pick because it's a good chance they ain't never gonna play the NBA. Like most second round picks don't, they some of them find a way, but most don't stay. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not as, I don't know. So I guess that's enough context, and other people already know they've seen people wilding and saying stuff. So I guess the first nugget I will share, and then I will ask any thoughts that you had on this. I think it's the angle of folks who, and in relation to like a short concept, I think is that the John Bryant whose podcast was that on, and they're talking about Jesse Jackson Jr. speaking at HBCU that I don't remember off the top, but basically, and it's a notion that I've seen because we weirdly enough do this. Like if someone has the fortune to have had the structural support I mean that clip goes specifically to that, like as being a community that if you had a good father who could put you in position for something, that you should be ashamed or hide that. That's a challenging idea. That might be a little bit more pejorative than it needs to be, but the general sense that your parents having the capacity due to who they are, and that you have opportunities that others would not have. Now, this is a fully unprecedented outcome. Even Dwayne Wade's child, I think, got drafted with a G League joint. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right. Generally, the NBA, like, if you ain't got it, Michael Jordan's son kids ain't seen no parts of the NBA.
Right.
At all. So, it's very interesting kind of slice of life. And I guess before I'll stop rambling and let you hear if you had a thought about this particular occurrence in any ways.
Oh man, here we go. So, reading an article today about Bernard Arnault. He's the head of LVMH, right?
Mhm.
Biggest perfume clothing company in the world. And it's in Bloomberg, and it just basically talk about they call him the wolf in cashmere. Like he's vicious, right?
Mhm.
Like how he took over companies, all this kind of stuff. Still goes into the stores to this day and remarks on what color sneakers people are wearing, if they're wearing LVMH, like that kind of attention to it.
Mhm.
The five people. Now, again, this company is like the biggest clothing company,
Mhm.
perfume company, Chanel, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Everything, literally everything. Like everything that ain't Hermes or Gucci, everything else, basically.
Yeah.
Um, the five people who are number two in the company, essentially, or five people who are going to run the company, are all his children, ranging from age 49 to age 32. Okay. None of them have generally worked anywhere else than with him.
Mhm.
And this setup, although I'm sure some people in Paris are not happy, Paris and Shanghai, right? In New York. Generally, he's going to do that because it's his company to do it with, right? And that's just what it is. So the idea that the most impactful basketball player, so I want to be careful, I want to be thoughtful, and I want people to hear what I said. The most impactful basketball player, not the best. Now, I'm not in all that.
Mhm.
Because you ask or somebody old, they'll tell you Connie Hawkins and Black Jesus and all them was, you
You
know what
ain't
I mean?
see Pearl
You
Thompson.
ain't see you
Well,
ain't seen Earl, you ain't see Earl Monroe. You know, they was playing in sneakers that the day we would all fall out, whatever. But you know.
right. I mean, you ain't seen Black Hawk Johnson in 1947. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
He finally got home from the war. Like you know what I'm saying, it's somebody you ain't seen that's the most amazing athlete anybody knows. So, but it is.
so right. So that's just how it goes, right? So I'm saying the most impactful just because of all he's impacted. You think a team that's one of the most uh you know one of the most expensive or one of the biggest um teams and institutions in global sports is not going to pick his son 55th, to your point, where it's likely the 55th guy has never made the team anyway? No team? What do they lose? If he plays for 4 games and goes to the G League, right? The money that and the attention they'll make by opening night, LeBron James and Bronny James playing on the same team on the same court for 10 minutes so they get his ass off the court because he's not ready.
Right.
He's not ready at all. But that's worth the cost of admission. And if he gets sent to the G League to work on his game, he's got to make it the way he's got to make it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We should, and so this goes to the second point. So my first point, just again, in general, like people practice nepotism all the time. There's a whole bunch of mediocre people who have been helped by who they know. Why when black people start doing it, it get tricky?
Yeah. It's this thing to be uh
Y'all want people
okay.
to earn. Did Bob Kraft's son earn everything? Did Belichick's son earn anything? Shanahan's a hell of a coach, so I'm not making that statement. But does anyone think that he doesn't get into the coach's room if you ain't if your father wasn't there?
Well, yeah. And even the access to the world of coaching to be a great coach.
Right.
Like he's, like it not that doesn't go for every single person, but I mean the nepotism in NFL coaching is well documented,
Right.
like all over the place. And
So
coaching,
it's just
actually, but
coach, right? So because this man made a decision he wanted to play with his son after all he's given to these games, man, whatever. And so it goes to my second point. You hear so much in certain circles of our community about what black men do or don't do,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
This is the ultimate in a black man creating a space and leaving something and leaving an opportunity for his son. Besides all the wealth, his son wants to be a basketball player. He has an opportunity because his father's one of the greatest players ever to live. That should be the end of the conversation. That should have been a 10-minute conversation. The same time when we think about Bob Kraft's son running the Patriots, the same way we think about the Shanahans, we should have thought about that for 10 minutes and let it go on. Again, it would be different if they got picked him with the sixth pick,
right.
right? Like a lottery pick. They picked him with the 55th pick. That's a throwaway. Again, nobody wants to be honest about that. It's a throwaway pick.
Yeah,
When everyone looks at the 55th pick in the last 10 years, you don't remember none of them.
it's
Just like you might not remember him.
like that. And I mean, I think if the I've had other things going on in my life when all that was going on. So it's not like I had an abundance of time to like roll around on the Twitter bird machine and hear people's fomenting outrage. But I did get here and there other entry points. Folks going. I mean, generally, if you somebody who has um it has a general like I hate LeBron because the way that some people they have these weird faux relationships with people they don't know that like where they like really detest them, like not like on some like I knew him and he stole like he stole my daddy's records type energy, but
Blind melon jelly, right?
like you really out here mad at LeBron, like you knew LeBron, like LeBron. Like LeBron used to be in your neighborhood and did something to your sister or something, but like broke your mama heart or something. Like, I hate him. I hate him so much. And it's like, I hate the way he talk. I hate the way he wear his pants. Like,
Hate the way they dress.
yeah, dude, it's like, oh
Nobody got
man.
shit to address.
Like and if the slippery slope, like people are, I understand people having their feelings or whatever. However, I think there's, I would, I as a person in the world, you know, would hope that and would be concerned for Bronny's well being, just like, can he deal? I mean, one at some point he been LeBron's son his whole life. So he might have a lot better job of figuring out how to handle like your father is, pound for pound, one of the greatest NBA basketball players of all time. Life has been speculated on. His life has been speculated on your entire life, and he has been in the public limelight since he was a teenager, and you are his child. And so there's some aspect of that I trust that Bronny understands in a way that none of us could understand. You know what I'm saying? Like even if a lot of us come from parents who's cool people, and had had some sort of flag post print, some space of esteem in the world, whatever that in their space. But it's definitely a different thing, like the cognitive reality. Maybe when you was 11, you wanted to go somewhere with your father, and it was like, oh, we have to go there this way because I'm LeBron's son. Like people gave me an extra hug. Hug being the beverage, not like an actual hug, like a quarter water, as some would say. If you even ever seen one of them, but maybe he has. Point being that you've lived an entire life where you're trying to be you, and you can't totally escape the shadow of your parent, and particularly within playing basketball. And it's been the rumbling for a few years because as it goes with NBA prospects, like folks kind of know, at least those that could be have that high end super expectation from the size and height situation, and then how they play the game. the signs are there, especially again, someone that's the profile that he has. And it was like, yeah, he could play in the league, maybe, but superstar, maybe not, right? And it getting to this place where we, we're talking about Bronny like we care about Bronny, but we don't really care about Bronny. We just care about whatever's happening with LeBron. Like even the people are like, yeah, they should have drafted him. They should have drafted him. He should have stayed in school. He should have did this. Like it's ultimately for most folks, I think in the larger like shadow in the conversation, it's still a LeBron conversation. It's not a conversation about the well being of Bronny, and it's definitely not a conversation about like some sort of more fair access to development and getting into the NBA. Um, it is a feat though that you know this man has had such an impact and should be said, and I'm not the first to say it. I'm echoing what lots of other people said. LeBron has actually exceeded the expectations that we had for him. Like
Right.
it's like, which is the craziest thing for some. Like the whole thing's crazy. So and it's never gonna happen again. Like Wemby's not gonna have like they're like Wemby Jr.
No.
Here come Wemby Jr. Or like Lil Jokovic. You know what I'm saying? I think the Cooper Poll part two is like it ain't. There's not gonna be some other player who has an opportunity to do this in the near future, right? Some other NBA player child is definitely going to get in the NBA because
Yeah.
so many gigantic youth on Earth.
And also, yeah, because we got to a place where, like to your point, like really good athletes started mating with other good athletes,
Yeah.
right? Like the first generation of them were like maybe two people who were good athletes mated, and maybe somebody just came out and won the genetic lottery, right? But like this other generation are all like, yeah, good athletes mated together and created other good athletes, right? Like,
Hey,
and
wait,
so
was it Drew Holiday? I don't know
yeah,
how many children they have. I ain't ever seen their kids, but if he got kids, if him because his partner is one of the greatest female soccer players in the history of America. So like if they have children, whatever sport they're playing, they wreck a shot. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like, it's coming our way. If there's a little Rue Holiday out there playing point guard, he's coming. At some
Yeah,
point.
no, I think in a lot in basketball and in football in particular, but basketball even more. Interestingly enough, right?
Yeah.
Um, that it got more organized because you don't even see it. You don't even see it in soccer. Like you don't see like the
Yeah.
greats from like the '90s and the '80s, like their kids playing, right? But I think that's also again because where they identify them, where they locate them, it happens differently. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you may see that. But yeah, I mean, it's like, listen, the kid gets a chance to play, whether he's reaches matches up to his father. The only guy that was better than his father that we talk about like that was Kobe Bryant, right? And you might say Klay Thompson. I mean, Steph Curry. So that's fair. But like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have a whole bunch of people that are better than their fathers
Yeah.
when it comes to playing basketball, right? And my thing is we have to be thoughtful about what we say we're okay with. If we want black power, if we want black influence, if we want black men to do the right thing by their kids, sometimes it might offend some other parts of your perspective,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And guess what? In the world we live in, mediocrity is rewarded. And there's so many examples of it, I don't have to even begin into it. But there's so many examples of mediocrity being rewarded just recently that it's no reason that we think that even when people gain power, they still are going to put their children through the chopping block that they had to go through
Yeah.
purposefully. They're not going to do it, and they shouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to do it purposefully. Now they got to go through their own love, hell, or right. That's something that they've chosen versus like, I'm not going to give you a leg up.
Yeah.
While everyone, by your supervisor, at the accounting firm or your supervisor at the marketing firm got an absolute leg up.
Right.
It is mediocre as all get out.
Hey, that's so and so's that's so and so's niece or whoever.
Right.
And hushed tones. Like, oh, that's your whoever. Like, oh, we did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. It was startling though. Like I didn't expect that to happen. I actually expected some other team just to draft him on a flyer and see what happens. But then once I saw that, I thought about it, I was like, 55. Yeah, why not, man? Makes sense, man. That's if I was him, Freedom was, my son was, yeah, I would have played basketball too. I'm like, hey man, get him in here, man, give him a shot. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, really?
It's not the lottery. We don't set ourselves back 10 years not picking the right person.
Yeah.
Like and I think for me I'll say in closing is it makes me realize that so many of us are really interested beyond what we should be in other people's lives. It's part of that social media thing we've talked about where we all become cultural critics based on our underlying assumptions and feelings about the world
Hmm.
that we often haven't interrogated, but we just share.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it makes a conversation last days longer than it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. So, in other news, the RNC Republican National Convention has been going on this week. I guess I think at the time of this recording, might be going on right now. And,
Shout to the in the mill. Shouts out, brother. Now divine
you know what
in
I'm
the
saying?
mill where it's real.
And it's a very, I don't know, I may be the only one who feels this way, but it's been odd and interesting and weird and disturbing to listen to basically definitely for the better part of the last 3, 4 months, and definitely since that terrible debate performance by all parties involved, actually, although it seemed matter
Yeah.
more for one person than the other. Um, it's like watching this conversation that somehow is centered on Black people, but at no point is being directed by any coherent Black construction of political theory. They've got new Black folks, right, that they've put up on the dais. Like Tim Scott don't seem to be around. Maybe he was there. I don't know. Uh, it was some other random Black dude. I don't really know who he was, but he was saying something.
Probably Byron Donalds, the
Okay.
black dude from down Florida.
Yeah.
He's like the new person in the orbit.
Okay. And then they had Amber Rose up there.
Yeah.
And like I mean I don't know what to do with Van Jones. Like it was a clip I heard where he was just saying like, man, what are you going? What do you like? Anyway, we'll get to that at another point. But like this surreal thing where all these people essentially are like talking about the Black vote. And this will relate to the person we're gonna talk about later too. While like I ain't seen like a bullet point list of no promises. I ain't seen no. It's a weird and like everybody seems to be going along with it. Like, disaffected Black men activists that maybe don't think they're activists, but realize maybe they may not realize they're activists, but like I do community organizing, ain't nobody helping me. And this other group, and they all of y'all, I'm gonna say y'all, I'm gonna say it. Anybody got beef with it, holla at me. Go on TV and let these people slot you into a narrative, right? You just wanted to tell people how you feel, so you wanted to be seen. Slot you into a narrative. They had this whole convention going where they seems to be where at least the mentioned central like anchor point in the success of the strategy, while not promising anything, while not like there wasn't no white papers like filled with data points like rooted with Black folks or some other tangible evidence of an actual concern. But at the same time, I can't escape people talking about it like, yes, you look, the the other party, they not doing this and this party, and then they're over there. And looking at the video clips and snippets and trying to piece together some of the dialogue, it's like I'm not expecting much from the folks who normally party over in that part of the political spectrum because they don't really care about us anyway. Like they, we're we're not a primary factor. But looking at them, this in light of all these other our recent Supreme Court decisions, I mean, it just I just find it like I don't even know if I have a solution. I just feel like I needed to say it out loud so I don't feel like I'm losing it. They're like, am I the only person that's watching this and simultaneously concerned for our own, as a community, our own savvy, understanding, aspirations, even, um, but very tangibly, like do we see like we're participating in like folks getting played like in a brand new way while like not really having any leverage to like get what you want. I don't know. I'm pretty
So,
about it. It's,
so
it's
let,
weird.
let me start with the what I think is what I think is a cogent perspective before we delve into the bullshit, right?
Mhm.
And I've said this in public, so I'm not speaking out of turn. And I'll say it. I think one of the biggest challenges with the perception or reality of the disaffected black male voter in the Democratic Party is that in the ways that the democratic structure thought about how to deliver results was rooted and fundamentally based in systems and not based in individuals. So what I mean by that is this. If you look at like the big grants that are coming out, like they all have to go to intermediaries, and intermediaries give the money to a union or give the money to a business or give the money to a municipality. Then the municipality gives training to these people, right?
Mhm.
It's a very organized structure of how you distribute the money based on the parties who were really influential in identifying how the resources were going to hit the table. A level of resources we hadn't seen since the Great Society. So I'm not making a judgment on the resources. I
Mhm.
am saying there was a disconnect in the individual realities of some black and some Latino men
Mhm.
who are very much like, let me just get a chance to make my reality, which means like, let me get some money, some grant money or a loan to build my business.
Mhm. Mhm.
There was not a lot of money in the systematic structure of the IRA, IIJA, and all those things for that, right?
Mhm.
So in that, there was a space where there was a lost opportunity to spur entrepreneurship amongst some black and some Latino men who have not been able to get the benefit of government support. So I just want to start with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Doesn't speak to everything, but does speak to some populations
Hey.
who feel like, yo, I want to get it out the mud. I just need a little help. And there wasn't a lot of money in the systems for that. I'll tell you, when we did the Build Back Better stuff, how many people were coming to be like, so what's up with some of that money y'all got? And it's like, dog, ain't no individual $5,000 loans in this ticket.
Yeah.
It's just not. So good or bad, that's a thing that the structure and the system of how the resources were divvied out that we have to have a conversation about. That being said, that's entirely different than these dalliances that people are doing, right? And to your point, they're not doing dalliances to say the Biden administration's economic model did not hit individual entrepreneurs. What is your strategy to hit individual entrepreneurs? And to use the fact that you got a check, quote unquote, from Trump during the pandemic is not a reason that you think he's going to do it again. And so there are people who think because they got a check with Trump's name on it, that proved that he wanted money in your pocket. And it's just it's sophomoric, if not, frankly, foolish political philosophy. And so that's where we're at with people being like, yo, the black voter is going over there. When, to your point, no one has said, okay, how are we going to be helped when you get there versus I didn't get nothing from them. So it's the politics of being upset, which to their credit and to maybe others' dismay, the Republican like apparatus is really good at the politics of being upset about something and taking advantage of people who are upset about something, but not having a solution to resolve what they're upset about. And this idea of black males and some Latino males wanting to start businesses and engage and not getting an opportunity, and the idea that Trump, and again, politically, we have to have the conversation that Nancy Pelosi forced the hand of the resources getting to people. That's just historic. That's just accurate. Because Trump's name was on it doesn't mean he's the one that gave it to you. And so that's, huh?
He just was the president, so he had to sign.
He signed it, and he was smart enough. He's been marketing himself for forever. He was smart to be like, my name is on it.
My name's on it, so that means I did it. You know what I'm saying? Which is, like I get it. Because I guess the Treasury Secretary or anybody else's name could have been, some other person authorized to sign checks on behalf of the government. Name could have been there.
Right, but it was his. And so that's where I think you take a very real conversation, and then it filters down to foolishness, and more to your point, filters down to, okay, let's say you're playing footsie with with the Republican Party. Because also, and you just, not that you haven't said this and you know this, there is a line of black people being Republicans for a variety of reasons of their take on, things for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's thoughtful people who love black people who were and are Republicans.
Yeah.
That's just that's where they line up.
Yeah, that's where they be. They be over there all the time.
Right. And is that different than this MAGA thing? I think so. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
I think the idea of the RNC and how it includes black voters, the fact that no one over there besides Tim Scott has ever had a comprehensive, sophisticated way of engaging black voters is telling, to your point. And regardless of where you end up on it, it looks like they don't really care about you because they've never had a sophisticated way of talking about how they want you to be included, other than this infamous black jobs thing. Now, let me just say something about the black jobs thing. As asinine as it was, people still knew what he was talking about. And you still knew what he was talking about. And some may say, this is my take, some may say, well, that's foolish because there's no, and you're correct. But in a system that where white supremacy and turbo capitalism has kept people perpetually in an underclass, you knew what jobs he was talking about. Doesn't mean they're black jobs. It does mean that there's a conversation about what role people play in an economy. And I think we have to be honest about that. Because if not, we'll all just be haughty and be like, black jobs. But he's touching in on some people's feeling that they can't do a thing because the perception of someone else coming to do their job. Now, I've written on this for years, so I can say this. The vast majority of jobs that you got people coming in to save their lives, coming across a border to save their lives and their families' lives, you didn't want to do that job anyway.
Yep.
You didn't want that job. You wanted to be an influencer. You want to do flyers for parties. You don't want them jobs. Because I don't want them, because I'm just being square. Yo, them jobs is tough. When you go to this restaurant and somebody done burnt their hands and their fingers in the back washing dishes, that person you take for granted in the back washing the dishes to make sure the dishes are clean from the beginning of the day to the end of the night. So, you know, black folks uh, have this issue. They take advantage of it when, to your point about the next person we're going to talk about. But I just think it's like, and then I'll stop here. It's a lack of a cogent strategy for all black folks,
Mhm.
not just black folks who agree with a particular economic perspective or a particular political perspective. The Democratic Party hasn't done one, and the Republican Party hasn't done one. The Democratic Party has done some things that have helped way more black people than Republicans, don't get me wrong. But there's never been an actual platform that's been thought about in this way. I'm talking about maybe since 88 or maybe 92. When Jesse Jackson was pushing a black platform, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we make fun of all that, but he was pushing a black platform in 88 of a promise of what Dukakis was going to do.
Yeah.
Of course, Dukakis lost and then all went to shit.
Yeah.
But you know,
But and that to me is the challenging thing. I was actually I mean, it's like we're not really having a conversation that's rooted in like a substantive evaluation of the data. Not that we do that anymore as a society, not for sure that we did that before. However, we sure aren't doing it now, right?
right?
And and then to engage with peers to like try to read as other folks are sharing their thoughts, in our world, people just tell us everything they feeling, on the internet. And it's like you are making a call to that ultimately almost to me boils down to sometimes like, well, see, I mean, some of us is down with the other guy. And it's like, yeah, we always knew some people was down. Like there was someone down with every despicable cat in the history of American politics, in a way that one would say was counter to their best interests, right? People
Right.
popular thing people love to say. Because the orientation to power and influence via the vote, you know, that and especially depending on where you had your position within this an unfair, oppressive society, you end up where it's like, yeah, unless you want to go back to maybe like Dewey or something, you know what I mean? I don't was it Dewey, right? That almost got a third of the vote, you know what I'm saying? The president
Yeah.
back in the days or whatever,
Yep.
right? Like it ain't it ain't no I mean, I imagine, I'm sure there's somebody on the internet that be like, and they always bring up Dewey, but look at Dewey. like, I'm sure it's out there. Like, I don't gotta go find it. I'm sure there's somebody that made a YouTube video or TikTok where they're like, Dewey was a this and that and a so and so.
Low down, dirty dog.
Yeah, like he was up to something. But it's just bizarre, and it affirms my own practice of like trying to get the majority of my knowledge about what like the details via reading as opposed to
Mhm.
listening to the videos or something. Because like if I mean, it was some I was on the bike at the gym today, um and they were talking about the assassination attempt, and I listened to them casually blame the woman, a woman who was somewhere, a woman CIA, Secret Service agent who was there, and basically insinuate, like, well, maybe that was the problem. That one was there. I guess she had trouble putting the gun back in her holster or something. Which it was just like to watch this happen, and to have it be a thing that is just a feature of the way we allow people to talk about the world, particularly depending on where you're situated. You know what I mean? This obviously, as you can imagine, was Fox News. That was doing that was on one of the screens. And then, on in other coverage, the you know, it's like folks have no confidence with having a position on something and then having the intestinal fortitude to be like, yeah, this is how I see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, of course we don't want nothing terrible to happen to nobody, man. Like for real, like this is what we doing. Meanwhile, you know, you get into this engagement and I'm watching clips and I'm seeing snippets, and then it says like, "Oh, is this?" Like, all right, yeah. So you really think that's a credible? Like, none of us are gonna go vote for something because Amber Rose said so. I mean, maybe somebody will, but not me. Like who like who's aware? Like I'm sure there's. I mean, you know what? I'm not even gonna do that because that's yeah. I'm gonna keep it moving to another topic. But to suffice it to say, it's bananas, right? And not in a good way, like the delicious bananas I had in Rwanda while I was visiting. Like,
Yo, that
that-
was a rich flex. I just want to let you know that was another level of rich flex. Like the beautiful bananas I had in Rwanda.
you know what I'm
Ah,
saying? Ha! You know what I'm
ah,
saying? You don't know nothing about the bananas I was eating in Rwanda.
yo,
But yeah, me, but
rich
like I was.
flex.
Ah!
Whew.
So, I guess it's just, I mean, like I guess I mean it's gonna get a real while, I guess, the closer we get to this thing and old clown JD Vance. I guess they figure like he might have a good shot to be the next president. So let's get him up there. And
Yeah, it's definitely like we've decided we want the MAGA thing to actually control the Republican Party. And so I will say I think there is, if I put on just my like raw political hat,
yeah.
that's really smart.
Yeah.
Like because Trump could have done what he's doing, and he's kind of asserting, him and his son are asserting that this will actually wrestle the control of the party for the next 15 to 20 years.
Yeah. And then, within the way this stuff kind of goes these days, I imagine they're like, if they're able to win, even if they lose, if they prop him up, you know, he has a prehistory of being anti-MAGA, and now he's MAGA. Now he's kind of down with it, but he was anti-MAGA before.
Right.
They can kind of like, you know, there's like the same way. How do you say this? Where you might, we might. I'll say we might. Okay, I'm saying we might be hopeful that a person that either like is elected to office like for the first time. Oh, he's gonna be the first black mayor of Quentin County,
Mm-hmm.
and like it might be cool, man. Like it might. I mean, some things questionable from his past that we kind of ain't really rock with him like that. But you know what I'm saying? We hopeful that when he get in there, man, maybe he be cool. And then so for them conservatives that, however, and I don't know how they figure out their feelings about any of this, but at some point they're gonna be like, well, he's like, even though, and also I think the hillbilly elegy, whatever, my man, like, like, but for them and within that narrative of the world, that maybe at some point he can be a more sensible conservative later down the line, right?
Right.
Like maybe we don't have to be as MAGA-ish, but let's be super MAGA right now because it looks like we might be able to pull off a victory.
Right. We can win. Right.
Like we win, we get him in there, and then the negotiation is like, look, Trump, you only have 4 years younger than the other dude, so it's real stuff. You know what I'm saying? We ain't really trying to run you again, no matter how much
Right.
we love you. Like, we,
Right.
like, you know what I'm saying? It's always like we get this dude in there, and then you know what I'm saying? We in there like we might be in there like swimwear with the to get the people who don't have the intestinal fortitude to be like, I mean, but he looks good in the suit. They be like, nah, but he's not. Don't vote for him. Don't do it. But anyway, I digress. So I don't know. It's bizarre, like I said, to be like the center point of people who don't really never talk about you in no good way, but they talking about you like they care. And for some people to be over there like, well, maybe they do care. And I'm like, no, they don't care. People don't care about you.
Well, that's also the lack of power and leverage that you're always looking for someone to care about you versus what you stand for and how you interact with people
Yeah,
makes them decide how they care about you.
yeah. So with that, we'll pivot to a different topic that
Yeah.
that I hope we can have there's some serious points, but also some levity. So Dr. Umar was on the Breakfast Club. Okay, was that this week or was it like last week? I guess
It was last week.
it's
Yeah, it
like
was
last week,
last
so it's fairly current though. It was like just
week.
and just so he know, you know what I'm saying, ain't nobody out here trying to pull what do you call him, a YouTubian struggle
Struggle
streamer.
streamer. YouTubian struggle streamer.
And
the
so in
best.
my own effort to, like I said, I'm not out here to denigrate the brother. But it's always the thing, and I think this is just all right. This is just the world we're at now, and I'm a couple this to I guess the other. I didn't read every bit of it or follow every bit of it, but like Terrence Howard and Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson's
Oh yeah,
engagement
yeah.
around the ridiculous math concepts that Terrence Howard was saying, right? Like I'm not, I can have a different perspective, jovial, joyful, how you say, I don't know, I'm laughing along, brother. I'm not laughing at, what I'm saying? Like, and critique, I guess, of just what I'm watching as a media product, right? Like, so the Breakfast Club, I guess the reconstituted Breakfast Club from Angela Yee leaving, and I guess Envy has moved to the other side of the civil scandals he might have faced, and they maybe have recentered themselves, but in this touch point in media that for a lot of people is a big source of like learning about stuff happening in the world, right? Whether I like it or not, whether I feel however I feel about it, it's not necessarily the point. In that you have a conversation where you talk about everything from interracial dating, uh, black fatherhood, single parent households, so special education in schools, uh, migrants, the migrant crisis. Like you have like like a 10-point conversation with with I don't know if that's bad or good. Like on one hand, I guess it's a good thing that you had a 10-point conversation about all these issues. On the other hand, there was like some things that were salient, reasonable concepts that we should really think seriously about. And there was other stuff like, come on, Dadu, why are you wilding, man? Come on, bro. Come on, fam. We all in on the joke right now, right? Like that you like, look, this is what I do, baby. Like I gotta come out here, I say some stuff that's a bit inflammatory, you know what I'm saying? It ain't really for some people, so they ain't listening. And then, we go on with our day. Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's my opening point. I guess, is there any particular touch point in their engagement and just sort of the where we are now, with brother from where he from? North Philly?
I thought he was West Philly.
West Philly. Okay.
I know he down in Wilmington now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Listen, man. Just like I told you when I sent it to you. Homie is must see TV. Much in the way that like fights, family fights back in the day. When like two kids start fighting, so then the brothers come out, the sisters start fighting, the mom and them might fight. Like, this is before the prevalence of guns to the point you may have a family fight where two families might fight.
Right, like there, the family down the street there, the two families, and then like, oh, what's the name of them? Something happened with so and so. Like, what? They outside right now?
And,
For
and
real?
then they go up there. The kid got hurt. The kid got punched in the mouth. The mom go up there. Now the mom is fighting the grandmom. And it usually got out of control. But I'm just saying this is before the time when someone pulled out the AR-15 or somebody
Right.
sprayed the block up, right?
Yeah.
Much in the way that some of that was must see TV in its craziness, right? Much in the way that like certain stuff you like, oh, I don't want to look at this. Oh, but I gotta look at this. Like he is that. to your point, and I always want to start serious before we go
Yeah.
dive into the doldrums of our conditions. There, people in our communities are always, when I say always looking for a leader, I just mean there have been people who've been speaking out, speaking truth to power, saying things that people want to hear that they don't feel like the system is saying. And that's always happened. And we've always had that. And sometimes people say things that are outside the mainstream, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because there's some ideas from outside the mainstream that need to be inserted into the mainstream. So when we're talking about Pan Africanism, Black
Mm-hmm.
power, alternative ways of value systems in the Black community, those were things that everyone thought was weird until they weren't, right? So to
Mm-hmm.
use one, we need to hold space for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that all that I just said is true. But the flip side of Dr. Umar is he is literally created for this time
Mm-hmm.
where he knows to say the wildest stuff in the world. YouTube struggle streamers, Snow Bunny Camp. Like he just says the wildest stuff. The King Kong of Black Pan Africanism.
Africanism, yeah,
You know what I mean? When he does some videos talking about no, the sister wanted to get me. The sister wanted to get me off my square. She wanted to get King Kong off my square. She wanted me to engage her in this way versus engaging her mind. Like, you know what I mean? Like the shit is so for this time. And I will say, if he had to use those methodologies to grab people because that's their thing, I would say cool. The only challenge is, and I'm not going to make this about him personally, I'm going to make it about the structure around him, and willfully
Mm-hmm.
it can be received like this. You have to deliver on the things you're talking to our people about,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? Like you have to deliver. We from down the way. I can always appreciate it's just taking a little longer to get this open. But when you're talking to Sister Jackson from Trenton, that's gonna bring down her
Right. You
uncle.
ready to bring her? Right. To do the carpets. I'm
That's
like,
gonna
hold
do
up,
all
man.
the floors.
You gonna do all the
Like
floor. You know what I'm saying?
Sister Jackson's from Trenton. She done just hooked up with her. He gonna bring down her uncle. That's gonna give him a good price on the floors. Dog, if you got a machine going, you not saying that on the radio, man. That ain't even no conversation. So the thing is, while I get it and you're built for this time, you're reinforcing, and this is to me important, that Black folks that have alternative perspectives have a challenge building institutions,
Mhm.
which I think when it stays in people's heads, it doesn't allow people to say there can be alternative ways of seeing the world that accompany institution building besides Dr. Umar being hilarious.
Right. Right. It is something that I was thinking about too, like looking at how, like I said, at some point there's an acknowledgement in the way that he rocked with it, where it's like whatever is the downside of some of the wild stuff I say is a downside that don't matter because then people don't help me anyway. So, yeah, I'm saying, like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, when he was talking about the money, like, it's people who got all these questions about what we doing and where's the transparency, and he's on something there. I know what transparency is, but sometimes these days when people say transparency, I be wondering, like, what details do you think makes it transparent and not transparent? And is there something else that you're actually asking about what either people are doing, especially when it's like people, not necessarily government, but even when it's government, you know what I mean, or government adjacent. I would just like us all to interrogate explore our feelings when we say someone needs to be more transparent. So I'm gonna put that over here in the parking lot. I'm gonna come on over back where Dr. Umar's need them carpets. And he said he he like, look, The people who be asking me mad questions about where the money going, and what is it doing, and what time is it going to be done, they ain't made no contributions. They ain't donated no money. So why I need to tell them anything? And then there's a person that's like, you might be onto something there, Dr. Umar. Like that totally. Bit. You know what I'm saying? Like if on a flyer, like I said, brother said he trying to build a boarding school for black children and to be like an institutionally leading transformative space, centered in Wilmington. Look, man, if at some point, if it feels like it's getting closer to being a real thing, I got a 50 to put on that. Like, go ahead, brother. Like, I'd love to see that available for the children in Wilmington and elsewhere that could go there. If it's real, right? If we serious, like it's a real, there's applications and forms are getting filled out and children are moving there at, 13 to finish their finishing before they, move on to being young adults. Hey man, I'm all for it. Like if you, because also though, I'm skeptical. Like if things aren't being specific, if it seems like it keeps going on and on to get to this school, right? Like it does ask the question, like is it for real? Now, like I said, then the other stuff he talked about is like, other people, they be hiring me to come do their special ed evaluations. And this is stuff that's real stuff. Like, like getting you need your kid evaluated for like where they at with special ed services and like learning disabilities. Like this stuff is real stuff, and someone that is qualified to do those for the psych evals and to do that work is mostly like it is expensive. You can't really get a lot of people that can do it. It's hard to get. It is actually vital if you're trying to get whomever your school district to get you services, right?
Right.
So and it's the weird flummox, right? Because he's talking about some stuff, and I don't have no reason to believe that he doesn't actually do them because he probably does. It's probably quite lucrative for him to do some of them evals if he's doing them, right? And a legitimate thing that people that can do that do. Like just for anybody listening that feels it's some sort of foolishness. Like no, it is a real thing that people need. And especially
Absolutely.
sharing something with your kids and you're trying to figure out, is something happening with my child that needs certain attention, right? That might need a long-term support, might need short-term support, might need a momentary intervention, might need an environment change. Like, I'm trying to, anybody out here that's had kids and anybody I think that could imagine having kids, at least it's been auntie, uncle to somebody that had a kid and people worried about whether they doing well. Like it's a real thing. The the challenging thing is, like I said, then he'll say something that in the way we are typically oriented to think about public figures who talk is that if they say something ridiculous later, you got to take a little bit of the shine off the stuff they said that might be, on point and correct. And
right.
I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's the colonizer, what I mean? Got me thinking like everybody needs to be squeaky clean and perfect, right? Because the reality is, ain't nobody ever, almost everyone got something, even if it's something that's very salient. Like if you give them enough time, they might be like, and I always thought, man, you got to keep your pinky toe out them socks. If you let your pinky toe out the socks, man, you have a much better life experience. And you'd be like, what you talking, pinky toe out the socks, right? Like, and they may be fully coherent in everything else you experience with them, right?
Well, we don't have to hear everything people think.
Yeah.
If you think about when people would do speeches or presentations, right? Once the presentation's over and you go home, you don't know what that person says when they at the bar.
Right. We don't know what kind of alcohol, kind of drink they order. If they,
and we didn't know. I mean, it goes
well
back to
done
Bill
steak.
Cosby and them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You knew what Bill Cosby gave you. Bill Cosby's life was not perpetually in your face.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that, and then everyone's selling everything now.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this is a smaller side, but I kind of respect Jay-Z for being like, you know what? I'm going to come outside like 3 times a year. Like, I'm gonna take 3 pictures at our parties. And besides that, I'm not really gonna talk to any of you.
Yeah.
Like, because he's really controlling your take on Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get to get more information that he wants to give you.
I mean, Beyonce don't talk to nobody.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
you
besides them taking pictures,
see my art.
besides them taking pictures with people,
yeah, that's it.
They control what you think about them.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, we didn't go back the whole Kendrick thing. I control what you think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But almost everyone else is like, I sell myself at all times.
Yeah.
And so him to continue to keep this, and again, going, we talked about this. The flip side is like the Breakfast Club, y'all bringing him on all the time now. Because y'all are at a point where y'all bringing people on and nobody wants to talk to them. So y'all, you know who's gonna watch if y'all bring him on? Dr. Umar.
Mhm.
Must see TV. Did I tell you? I don't even watch the Breakfast Club. I watched all of that interview.
I watched that interview, and then I went and got because there was the interview with Ali Sadiq, who's I've said you
Yeah.
and I love his work, which was very interesting to watch the juxtaposition actually and how unprepared they were actually to interview him. But the like you know this vehicle, right? Most of the time it's like, hey, I can skip it. I don't need to know what y'all talking about. But what did Umar say? Umar probably said some stuff. He said some things in this interview, and it's a for what the entity is and who he is. And it doesn't mean that any of the love that he professes for the community is not real or none of that, right? Like the only people who are like really up in arms is like, probably actually some of them black conservatives we was talking about earlier. They were like,
Yeah.
race. What was it? What do they call them? Race hucksters. What is they got a term
Yeah.
that they'll call like, oh, he's somewhere, right? And part of it is, and not to say that we've talked about in this space sometimes, sort of like the role of the black academic, the black kind of business leader,
Hmm.
um, and sort of the change that has happened in the black political leader, who's usually an elected actually in office in some way, right? And like
Right.
in our youth, certain, you know, you had the leaders, and these are still positions that exist, but they definitely don't have the same sort of overall structural esteem that they had, I think, when we were young in the 80s. Jesse Jackson as head of the Rainbow Push, Ben Chavis,
Hmm.
um, um, some of the other like legacy, like core, like civil rights organizations leaders who still existed as sort of like I mean, Dorothy Height was still alive. I guess she was still.
Yeah. Dorothy Height was still, yeah.
I mean, like, and so they held a certain level of like public credibility. Certain black business leaders, Vernon Jarrett, you know what I'm saying, Valerie
Right.
Jarrett, like
Red Jared, Vernon Jordan, yeah.
Vernon Jordan, pardon me. Uh, trying to think of a couple of like, and then they held like political operatives, like folks who maybe wasn't in elected office and they wasn't necessarily in charge of the party, but they was out here and like we knew they made moves, right?
Right.
And then there were academics, but academics weren't as prominent really in that pool. And that
No,
this
you're
last
correct.
like 10 years, 15 years of like kind of black organizing, black public consciousness, you have these sort of intellectuals, right, who have uh catapulted kind of to at least the largest platforms, or at least like a sense of esteem, different folks related to Black Lives Matter at different points.
Hmm.
The uh what's my man? Not Cornel West, yes, but I mean like Cornel West is like over here. Like people like, he's a known entity that's kind of from another age, but still here. Um
Right.
you get the black electeds who it's like a mixed bag depending on how people feel about them sometimes. When you talk like people who are like into politics in a certain way, like we like, Clyburn, so and so, Hakeem Jeffries, like we might look at them with a different level of respect where other people, because either they may feel like they're not, lack of a better word, left enough, or they're not progressive
Hmm.
enough. They have mixed feelings about these black folks as political leaders. You know what I mean? Before Maxine Walters,
Yeah, Maxine
or
Waters, yeah.
before was she retire yet? No. Yes. Yeah.
No.
No.
She old, and she older than Trump.
Yeah, she older than Trump. She ain't out. She ain't leaving. She's gonna pass the ball at some point. I hope. People gotta have a succession plan. But the way, but even that, like, it's not like we looking for the monthly address from Maxine Waters for like marching orders on like how to move the next step in the movement or whatever. And Pan Africanism largely. it's not really a thing a lot of these people talk about. Like we do a black diaspora thing sometimes, sort of. But I
Mm.
feel like kind of folks ain't really they ain't I feel this is how I feel. Other people that might be listening could tell Justice, baby Justice, you tripping. But even just coming from the things I experienced last month, I don't feel that like energy where it's like, yeah, I want to connect with the black diaspora on some also political freedom energy. It seems more like culture freedom and like I don't know. It's like this other thing. It ain't the same. And so what I'm saying this very long winded construct to get to is like there's no I don't know who the like more credible to some people or more palatable, less likely to say something wild counter note that is still maybe super like Pan Africanist in their approach to like a Dr. Umar, right? That at least has his level of stamina, level of like being known in the mix. There's also a thing, I'll just say it this way: some people ain't got no juice, they ain't got no charisma, and for whatever his fault is, Dr. Umar, he's kind of fun to listen to. Like you start talking, you be like, "You got to say, hold up, man! Like this is hilarious." Like he's, you know, sometimes you got to give the gab, got that energy, and you'll be like, "I'm listening to see what they about to say." Right? We are in a place where the kind of the line between celebrity and notoriety is this kind of weird, like, there might be people who would be better spokesmen for certain ideas, but that's not their job. And there's other people who I'm not sure what their overall kind of philosophy and perspective is. It's sort of this weird, it's like a mishmash. It ain't really Pan African, you know what I'm saying? Um, it's a, the like the what they call the who's the I don't think they ever found. I think they thought they had a leader, but they realized they don't got one. The Ottos people, like wherever they at, like they was all
Yeah.
fired up for a couple years, and they was getting that Coke family money, and was out here on the internet and tweeting, and then it just went away. You know why? Because they ain't really have one. It's a fully
It played on
spectrum.
attention.
Yeah,
It played on attention, but didn't have a direction.
yeah, yeah.
Because is there something to be said for? Yes, there's a subset of people who are the descendants of slaves and the descendants of slaves in America. So let me be specific.
Mhm,
The descendants of slaves in America that have undergone a unique like struggle,
mhm,
but there are also descendants of slaves other places that came here,
mhm,
and there are people who may have come here in the last 50 or 60 years, and within one or two generations, you don't really know the difference anymore. So the cop is not going to stop and be like, "Oh, wait, are you Jamaican?
You're not
Are you
Jim,
from the are you from the Bahamas?"
right?
If you get stopped by a cop, they ain't not waiting to see how many generations your family been here. You're getting stopped because you got the complexion
Yeah,
for the connection.
right.
So
For the flesh, you know what I'm saying out here,
so bottom of the eight connection.
right?
So it's like those things had grievances, and goes back to the conversation you were having about the GOP.
Mhm, mhm.
It's the grievance, but not the resolution,
I like that. Yeah.
right? Like you have the grievance, but you don't have the resolution. So Dr. Umar, in a sense, he's never over promising you, right?
Yeah.
See, this is why he's also much CTV. He's never promising you collective salvation.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm gonna tell you what you want to hear. Stay away from the white girls. Stay away from the snow bunnies." He want to ask Drake. Drake, I gotta ask you, where you standing with us, brother? Are
Right.
you
Yeah.
standing in your? Are you standing in your?
Standing in
But
your
again,
blackness.
but he made a good point. He said, "Listen, just because he's Jewish don't mean he ain't black,
Yeah.
right?" He said, "I wonder where you stand in
And
your blackness, brother."
yeah. And like I said, I gotta give him credit where he like, I'm just saying. That's the question. And it was in places where he wasn't sure. He's like, I need to go check, do a little research, brother, get back to you on that one. Like, like I ain't gonna come out too strong without making sure I know the facts.
Oh, oh man. I be like, whenever you get to a place where you feel like everything is depressing, you just start watching Dr. Umar, and it gets less depressing. If you've ever watched, if everyone listening, you gotta watch Dr. Umar at the Cherry Hill Mall, where it seemed like he was getting the white girl's phone number, and then people put him on blast for getting the white girl's phone number at Cherry Hill Mall because he's getting his phone fixed. Yeah, it was like Mr. Bean. It was like Pan African and Mr. Bean. It is absolutely hilarious how he explains him putting the phone number. Like, but again, like for real, he's unique in that he's not promising you political salvation.
Yeah.
He's not promising you cultural salvation. He's saying, I got some funny shit to say. I'm your cousin that started reading some books, but still got my ways about me. And that's what I'm telling you. And to help me build the school.
Right.
So I can get Miss Jackson from down Trenton.
Her husband can get there and get these floors done.
Get these floors done. Like it's so it's very familiar, right? And but I do want to say, like, even though all this shit is absolutely hilarious, I think your point about the political space where Ron Dellums and Bill Gray and Mickey Leland and all of the Barbara Jordan, can't forget Barbara Jordan, like all these brothers and sisters who were like leading in our relationship to the diaspora, stopping harm, not to just South Africa, but Namibia. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like stopping, using the weight of the American governmental system to stop harm to our brothers and sisters across the planet.
And it is so as I do the things that I do and think about just my like more creative and personal work, and then think about my other work, what I'm saying, in terms of policy advocacy and serving in a community elected position, and thinking about all these hats you got to wear, and the being mindful of what you're saying and how things can be construed, and then like also seeing other people just say whatever they thinking, because at some point, whether and not seeming to be encumbered, right, by like, is not even, it's not like is it going to offend, but to me it's more like, is it understood in the way that I intended? um is there a um it's like the way these from, and I don't have hard numbers, but I can go look, but I think, what are the media vehicles that get the most purchase at the moment, that are centered or manned by black folks or black appearing folks, in the US, right? And on the tip that Dr. Umar does his thing on the Breakfast Club, I don't know if it's, I mean, I can probably go look. I mean, because they'll have other like, I'm sure they've had like some of the like the color change people, or I don't know. I'm sure they've had some other people. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if none of them people is as entertaining as Dr. Umar is.
They are absolutely not as entertaining as they They are, man. They are not.
We started talking about Charlemagne messing up my day. Oh no, that was you. So that's why you gotta watch that Ali Sadiq, because Ali Sadiq in his joke talking about Charlemagne calling him Ali, and he's like that brother know how to say my name. He out here calling me Ali. My name is Ali. You know how to say that, Charlemagne. You tripping, and like go and which is the thing, like we would totally pick up on just as a community reality,
right?
Are like, yeah, man, nobody say Ali, like, get that right, brother. Like, but the idea that you would let it slip as a comedian person, and then to have this platform where a part of the appeal is like the one dude who asks wild stuff. He don't ask the wild stuff he used to do back when he was back when it was what's her name,
Wendy Williams. Yeah.
Wendy Williams show. You know what I'm saying? Because he growed up now. He can't talk all crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, but then also he run into people like Beans and Baby that be like,
right.
So what's up?
Like, what time is it? You know what I mean? Like, is we done? Is we finished? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Running the beans, being like, it's tough acting like you a certain way when you're not. but to your point, hey, listen, and listen, even the fact that we're talking about must see TV, the fact that we are having such a good time talking about it, because this idea, and Karis one talked about it like edutainment, right?
Mhm.
You saw it in hip hop for a long time, or you see, when Khalid Muhammad would talk, or Farrakhan would talk, or
Mhm.
even Al Sharpton when he would do, the
Al used to be out
the
there. You
Al used to be
Al
talking that talk and make people laugh, and
Yeah, Al done
he
moved to
got
a different slot now. He don't
he
need that.
got buttoned up a little bit because he moving with power, So Al done got buttoned up a little bit. He can't be as besides when he in Harlem dancing. That when he in Harlem, when he's son of James Brown, then because people be forgetting that his claim to fame was that he was the son of James Brown.
Uh,
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like you had edutainment. You had people that was going to do just going to be talking. They're going to say something funny. They're going to keep you engaged. They're going to engage you. They're going to, quote unquote, feed the mind. And you're going to go back home and think about this stuff, right?
right.
We have so many different ways of talking to each other now that like everyone takes whatever they're doing to like the fullest extent. So now comedy is like full comedy, like this full comedy, right? Like,
Right.
and we
Like,
get bombarded by comedy all the time.
yeah.
TikToks, like we just get bombarded, right?
Yeah. You gotta lay in the bit. You gotta get in the bit and you gotta stay in the bit. And you just keep going. Like there's no break. There's no breaks.
It's no break because the algorithm don't give you no break.
Yeah.
The algorithm say, "Oh, just what you like?
Yeah.
Here's more of it." And if we don't think that messes with our brains, we're lying to ourselves.
Yeah.
That I want to say to everybody: if you don't think when you and the algorithm get together that you're changed by the algorithm, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I gotta say, remember, if it's free, you're on the menu.
Right, you're part of the product, my man. Like, oh, they just let me listen to it. All you gotta do is get on YouTube. It's right there. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about this being on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So
yeah.
I gotta say this is my point of why I said it. But I mean, too, again, there's some things that he says. Again, going back to my point, I don't have to agree with everything. I would like some stuff to be based in information. I would like some things to be based in actual rational data, right? Like,
Right.
but I don't have to agree. But the fact that his positioning, what he's sharing, is actually getting media share for iHeartRadio,
Right.
right? For I think if I'm correct, an extension of Live Nation.
Might be. Yeah,
I think iHeartRadio is an extension of Live Nation because it's not Kathy Hughes and Radio One.
mm-hmm.
It's another system.
Yeah.
And it ain't too many radio systems. So if it's not Live Nation, it's some other radio system. Might be Ennis, it might be one of the other ones. So I want to make sure I want to pull Dr. Umar, get some more research on that.
I got to do some research on that, brother.
Get back to you. But like, but like the fact that you can bring a black man on that says he's the King Kong of black nationalism, Pan Africanism rather,
Pan
pardon me,
Africanism. That's right. Pan
to
Africanism.
to talk about things, and he is actually a draw, is saying something, and we need to be thoughtful of what the latent demand is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because sometimes something is there, but if you presented it differently, more would be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I argue that like the examples of what he shares is a proof that there's a latent demand for people to think about things that matter in our communities.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is just talk about the 50. I'll match it once you get Miss Johnson in from Trenton.
Right. Once you
Dr. Umar.
get the floors done,
Once
we
you
gonna,
get
you know what I'm saying? We're gonna put something on it, baby. I want
once you
to
get
see I want to see the dream come to life.
Once you get them floors, then you gotta get them people from down Trenton though. You gotta get them once you get them down the way to get her uncle to get them floors done. I'm 1,000% with you, man.
Right. It was, I guess, it just an aside that again may only be interesting to me and you and a couple other people listening. Is understanding the interconnectedness of the black communities going all from Wilmington up to Trenton.
Oh, absolutely.
Some people may be like, but Philly, but that's not New Jersey, and Trenton's in New Jersey. Because they from these other places where stuff is far away. It's like it's 30 minutes away. Like they could all be at the same events. If they all went to a Dune Day, like they was all there.
Right.
Like they all went.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But like to some people and some of our people, quite frankly, who sometimes, not that we not the only people that don't know about the world. I'm just saying, sometimes for our people, what we don't know about the dynamics of other black spaces, and especially I've experienced, especially living here on the West Coast, that folks from the West Coast and folks from the South sometimes have a lot of assumptions about the experiences of black folks in the Northeast and I guess just not where they from. And they don't, sometimes relationally or whatever, maybe they ain't got no, they ain't go to school with a person or whatever. So they don't realize it's like, oh wow, it's like a plurality. It's like a lot of black people there. There's like this other pocket of black people, and then black people hanging with these black people. And when you try to explain it to them, they kind of go like they still don't get it, right? So they may not pick up like, yeah, that's not an unusual thing that Sister Jennifer and her husband from Trenton that do the floors might be down picking it,
Might come down to right,
come
come
down to
down to Wilmington.
do some business. You know what I'm saying with Dr. Umar and then that like these people would have all of this while he's from West Philly originally. That's not this. None of this is unheard of. This is all totally possible and reasonable, like relationships to have happened. And the last thing I'll say on this that I think though is important and something that I want to think about, and I guess even thinking about what we do when we do this, that like we do live in a world where the construction of media and commentary and discussion about our world, is not held in any one place. If that was ever the truth, it is not necessarily a truth anymore. And people, if exhibited by the proliferation of these, especially we're in a wave of, two people talking podcasts, and usually they talk about foolishness, but or stuff that's light and fluffy, or all this happened in zeitgeist with the pop culture and the other person. Um, that though we also have the opportunity that we don't have to feel right that if Dr. Umar is outside saying something, that everything he says represents all of us in every
Right.
like he can say what he say, and then you know I mean I guess Amber Rose go say shit she's saying. I wouldn't listen. And that other dude, then what's the trying to think of a third, I mean, they don't seem to be top of the charts right now, but like the Ernie Leisure dudes is over there. Carmelo and what's his name is doing a thing, and Bomani Jones on his show, and what's the dude the swaying them on the other like radio shows like the West Coast radio shows, they say.
Terrestrial radio. Yeah.
I mean, there's like all these different things with like that are black centered or black folks or black around saying stuff. And hopefully you get the things you need to know, and it's okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to make it, even if they outside saying stuff. Sometimes it's like hilarious and ridiculous. Like it is not good political strategy. But hey, man, we none of us thought that we was actually going to use that to make our choices, or maybe some of us did. But that's okay. We're going to be fine, or we're not.
Right. And the thing about it is, if you're making decisions based on what you heard from these people, that speaks to the challenging community
Yeah.
and the opportunity. So I don't want to say a
Yeah.
challenge.
Challenge and opportunity.
That speaks to opportunity and community. And the more, I won't belabor this point, but the more I look at it, more I realize that like we've replaced community with the internet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And while I get that, black places and spaces that are thriving exist on the internet and in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? next show or the show that they're really talking about this whole, supercell and like London and like in its role as a place. Because not only does it exist via media, it's a community. And it feels different when you're there, frankly, than when you watch it here, but you still recognize it as a community, a physical community. And I think that like we only get messed up when we assume that the stuff that's being taken in on the internet represents everything versus a take.
Mm-hmm.
Just when Blowfly did records, it didn't mean that the black community was nasty as Blowfly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Lo-Fi had a contribution to the video.
Right. That's all. It wasn't everything, right? The sacred and the sacrilegious have existed. Race hucksters have existed.
Race hucksters, yeah.
The niggas in the barbershop have existed. The sisters in the hair salon have existed. Right? Like none of these things are new to our community. If you see more or less of them, it has to do with the mediums and how our proximity and relationship has changed more than the presence or the importance or the centrality of a Dr. Umar. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Absolutely. So, in any event, if you need an entertaining conversation and if any, go ahead and check it out. I would advise.
Must see TV. Listen, I'm gonna tell you got to watch it. You may take what you take from it. You may like it, you may not.
For yourself.
But you're going to enjoy it. I tell you that much.
Yeah. So with that, hey, I think we're good. So for the good order, I say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, I'm Majestic. Good Brothers is a part of the Ask Your Oldhead podcast, and you can support the podcast by listening, rating, and subscribing where you listen, sharing, and you can also support by searching for me, Justice Rajee, on Patreon and becoming a patron. As a regular subscriber, you help to offset my costs to create, and I just keep working at it. As we get into the rest of this year and the monumentous things heading our way. So I hope this was an enjoyable and useful conversation. As always, please take the best part for yourself. Until next time, peace.